In the last episode, Kimba, the fierce and beautiful warrior princess with powerful muscles, finally found true love in Keone, the brave hunter who saw beyond her strength and fell for her heart. But not everyone rejoiced. Keone also discovered a cure for Kimba's extreme muscular condition, and together with the warriors assigned to them by the king, they must journey deep into the Luba evil forest to find it. But secretly, envy was taking root. Her own sister Elisa had always lived in her shadow, burning with jealousy, craving the throne that was never hers. Blinded by envy, Elisa turned to her friend Pearl's mysterious aunt, a woman feared for her dark and ancient powers. Now, with forbidden magic from the depths of the forest, Elisa sets out to destroy Kimba's happiness and claim the kingdom for herself. As love and darkness collide, only one truth remains. Not everyone will survive what comes next. Elisa, my aunt is no ordinary woman. She is feared even among her own people. Are you sure about this? Elisa grabbed Pearl's hands, her eyes burning with desperation. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Take me to her. Now. Pearl hesitated, her throat dry. What do you want my aunt to do? To Kimba. Elisa's expression darkened. Her lips pressed into a thin line before she spoke. I want Kimba dead, she said flatly. She is the one standing between me and the throne. Pearl gasped, stepping back in horror. What? You want your own sister dead? Elisa, that's evil. How dare you talk to me like that? Elisa snapped. Her voice thundered with rage. Have you forgotten who you're talking to? Or have you also forgotten how Kimba betrayed you when you needed her the most? Pearl froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The memory, the one she had buried deep for years, came flooding back. Pearl and Kimba were about 12 then, two young girls bound by laughter, innocence, and friendship. Pearl's family had just moved to Kimba's kingdom with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Her parents were poor farmers struggling to survive. Out of mercy, a kind chief gave them a small piece of land to farm for free. Fate smiled on them again when Pearl met Kimba, the king's daughter. Despite their different worlds, they became inseparable. They played in the palace gardens till sunset, shared secrets under the mango trees, and even switched clothes to trick the palace guards. Their laughter echoed through the palace halls. Kimba loved Pearl like the sister she never had, and soon everyone in the palace grew fond of the poor farmer's daughter. Some even joked that the king had 3 daughters, not 2. But not everyone was happy about that friendship. Elisa, the younger princess, watched them from the shadows with growing bitterness. She despised Kimba for always stealing the attention of their parents. She hated how people adored her elder sister, especially because of her condition. Every smile Kimba received felt like an insult to Elisa. And when Pearl came into the picture, her hatred doubled. Nothing angered her more than seeing Kimba happy. So Elisa began to plot, quietly, patiently, with the kind of hatred that grows in silence. One moonless night, she summoned 2 of the palace guards and gave them a secret order. Before dawn, the small farm that belonged to Pearl's parents was up in flames. The family woke to screams and smoke. By morning, everything they owned was gone. But they were strong people. They cried, mourned, and started again. Then just as the crops began to grow, another fire came, and then a third. He accused them of negligence and took the land back. Pearl's family was ruined. They fell into debt and hunger. Days passed without food. Their faces grew pale, their clothes tattered, their hearts broken. One morning, Pearl could no longer bear it. She decided to go to her best friend Kimba. Not to beg, but to seek help from the one person she trusted most. She walked barefoot to the palace gates, her dress torn, her face stained with dust and tears. But when she arrived, the guards stopped her. Who are you, and what do you want here? One asked, frowning. I'm Princess Kimba's friend, Pearl said softly. I need to see her. Please, tell her Pearl is here. The guards laughed cruelly. You, the princess's friend? Look at you, filthy and poor. You're nothing but a beggar. I'm telling the truth, Pearl pleaded. Ask her. She knows me. But the guards' expressions hardened. The princess gave us orders, one said coldly. She doesn't want to see you. She said she's heard of your family's misfortune, and she doesn't want to be associated with people in such shame. Pearl's heart broke. No, she whispered. That's not true. Kimba would never say that. Leave before we drag you away, they warned. Pearl refused. Tell her I'm here, she cried. If she wants me gone, let her say it to my face. But before they could force her out, another voice rang from behind. Stop! Elisa's sharp voice sliced through the air. The guards turned and quickly bowed. Princess Elisa? Why are you treating my sister's friend like this? She demanded. Is this how you treat guests at the royal gate? They exchanged glances nervously. Forgive us, Princess, but it was Kimba who gave the order, one explained. She said she never wants to see this girl again. Pearl's knees weakened. No, it can't be, she whispered, her eyes glistening. Not Kimba. Elisa sighed heavily, shaking her head. I told you, she said softly, pretending to comfort her. That's how Kimba is. She changes when life gets too easy. She doesn't care for those beneath her. It's one of the reasons I've never trusted her. Pearl could barely breathe. Her heart felt like it was breaking in two. Elisa stepped closer, her voice smooth and persuasive. Tell me, Pearl, why did you come to see her today? Pearl wiped her tears. Our farm burned down, she said weakly. We've lost everything. My parents are starving. I thought maybe she could help us. Elisa's face softened, though her eyes gleamed with victory. Oh, poor child, she said gently. You didn't deserve this. Tell you what, I will help you. I'll give your family a new piece of land, and tools, and seeds to start over again. Pearl's eyes widened in gratitude. You'd do that for us? Yes, Elisa replied sweetly. But there's one condition. What is it? Pearl asked, hope lighting her face. You must promise never to see Kimba again, Elisa said, her tone firm. Never speak to her, never visit her, never mention her name. And 70% of whatever you grow will belong to me. Pearl blinked in disbelief. But Kimba is my best friend. I don't believe she truly said those things. I can't abandon her. Elisa's expression hardened. Do you want my help or not? She asked coldly. Your family is starving. Make your choice. Pearl hesitated. Her heart warred with her hunger. Finally, she lowered her head. I accept, she whispered. Elisa smiled. Good girl. She reached out and touched Pearl's shoulder softly. You're doing the right thing. Kimba doesn't deserve your loyalty. What Pearl didn't know was that it had all been a lie. Elisa had planned everything, the fires, the guards' words, the cruel deception. That same evening, Kimba woke up in her chamber and asked half asleep. I thought I heard Pearl's voice. Was she here? Elisa, standing near the window, replied calmly. No, sister, you must have been dreaming. Pearl's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Elisa now. I remember everything, she whispered. But even after all that, I can't wish Kimba dead. What you're planning is wrong. Elisa's expression grew colder than stone. I didn't ask for your opinion. When your family was starving, I saved you. I gave you land. I gave you hope. You owe me, Pearl. And now you will repay me. Pearl's voice trembled. Elisa, please. Enough! Elisa's tone was sharp as a whip. You will take me to your aunt. I don't care what it costs. Pearl shook her head weakly. You don't understand what you're asking. My aunt, she's not human like us. She's feared in every village. They say her powers come from spirits older than the kingdom itself. Then she's perfect, Elisa replied. If she can grant power, then I want it. Pearl's knees nearly gave way. Elisa, no. She doesn't grant power. She trades it. Every blessing she gives comes with a curse. Elisa stepped closer until their faces were inches apart. Then I'll pay the curse, whatever it takes. Pearl covered her mouth, horrified. You've gone mad. Elisa's voice softened, but her eyes remained deadly serious. Maybe I have. But madness is all that's left when you've been forgotten your whole life. You wouldn't understand, Pearl. The pain of being invisible in your own home, watching your sister take your destiny. The night wind howled as if echoing her words. Pearl felt her heart break again, for Kimba, for Elisa, and for the darkness she was walking into. Finally, she whispered, If this is truly what you want, then we leave before dawn. Elisa nodded slowly, her lips curling into a satisfied smile. Good, she said. We begin the journey tonight. As the moon slipped behind the clouds, the two women disappeared into the night, one driven by rage, the other by fear. The forest waited, silent and watching. What neither of them knew was that by the time the sun rose again, their lives, and the fate of the entire kingdom, would never be the same. The night was heavy with silence when they set out. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The moon hung low, casting a pale silver light over the earth as though it, too, was watching what was about to unfold. Elisa walked briskly out of Pearl's hut, her white royal cloak brushing against the dusty ground. Behind her stood 3 palace guards, men she trusted more than anyone else in the world. They were tall, fierce-looking, and loyal to her command. "Are we ready?" she asked sharply. "Yes, my princess," one of them replied, bowing. "Good," Elisa said, her voice cold and commanding. "We leave now. No one must know where we are going." Pearl stepped forward quietly, her face pale in the moonlight. "Follow my lead," she said softly, "and whatever happens, do not speak loudly. The forest we're entering is not an ordinary one." The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Elisa scoffed. "Oh, please. Don't tell me you believe in those silly village stories about spirits in the woods." Pearl looked at her sharply. "You may call them silly, but those who mocked them never returned alive. If you want to see my aunt, you'll follow my instructions." That silenced Elisa. Without another word, they began their journey. The forest stood before them like a wall of blackness. Trees twisted upward like fingers reaching for the heavens, their thick roots crawling across the path like snakes. The air grew colder the deeper they went. A faint sound of rustling leaves and distant howls echoed around them. The group moved cautiously, each step crunching softly against the dried leaves. "Stay close," Pearl whispered. "There are wild bears here. If we move quietly, they won't notice us." But Elisa wasn't used to such silence. Her jeweled robe kept catching on twigs and branches. Then it happened. Her skirt snagged on a sharp twig. When she pulled to free herself, the twig snapped and she stumbled forward, crashing to the ground with a loud thud. The sound tore through the stillness like a crack of thunder. Pearl froze. "Oh no!" From deep within the trees came a low rumbling growl. Then another. The guards tensed, drawing their spears. "Bears," Pearl whispered. 2 enormous creatures emerged from the shadows, their glowing eyes fixed on the group. One of the guards stepped forward bravely. "Stay back," he said. "I can distract them. You all move away quietly." He began stomping his feet and raising his arms, making strange grunting noises, imitating the bears in an attempt to confuse them. At first, the bears looked puzzled. One tilted its head, sniffing the air. The other blinked slowly, watching the man's movements. "Back away," the guard said over his shoulder. "Don't run. Just move slowly." The others began to retreat, their hearts pounding. But after a few moments, the bears grew impatient. They took a step forward, then another, their growls deepening. "Join me!" the guard shouted. "If we all move like them, they'll see we mean no harm." The other 2 guards hesitated, ready to step in, but Elisa hissed, "Are you fools? If you help him, you'll all die. Do you want me to lose my crown because of one useless guard?" Pearl stared at her in disbelief. "He's risking his life for you." Elisa shrugged coldly. "Then let the bears have him. He will die serving his princess. Now move." Tears welled in Pearl's eyes as she obeyed. Behind them, the guards' shouts turned into screams. The sound of tearing flesh and snapping bones echoed through the forest until there was only silence again. No one spoke after that. The weight of death hung heavy in the air. Hours passed. The sky began to brighten, painting the horizon with faint streaks of gold. The group was exhausted, their faces streaked with sweat and dust. Finally, Pearl stopped. "We're here," she said quietly. Elisa frowned, looking around. All she saw were trees and thick mist. "Where?" she snapped. "I see nothing but bushes and dirt." Pearl turned to her with a strange smile. "It seems you have eyes, but you cannot see." Elisa's temper flared. "How dare you speak to me like that? Have you forgotten who stands before you?" Pearl bowed her head quickly. "Forgive me, my princess. I meant no disrespect." She reached into her small leather bag and pulled out a gourd of water. Whispering words under her breath, she poured a little into her palm and sprinkled it over Elisa's face. Then she did the same for the 2 guards. "Now," she said, "open your eyes." Elisa blinked and gasped. Before her stood a dark shrine surrounded by dozens of human skulls. The skulls were arranged in circles, each one painted with red symbols. In the middle of the shrine stood a woman, tall, fierce, her eyes glowing faintly yellow. Her hair was long and wild, streaked with gray, and around her neck hung bones like beads. Elisa shivered. Is that her? Pearl nodded. My aunt. The two women stepped into the shrine while the guards remained outside. The air was thick with the scent of burning herbs. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. The old woman turned to them slowly. Ah, she said in a raspy voice. My little Pearl, you dare to return here after so many years? Pearl bowed deeply. Auntie, I bring a visitor, Princess Elisa of the royal palace. The woman's eyes flickered to Elisa. A princess, she said mockingly. Tell me, what brings royalty to my door? Do you want me to curse someone for you? Or perhaps make your enemy lose their mind? Elisa hesitated. Before she could speak, Pearl said quickly, She's the one who needs your help, not me. The woman laughed, a sound that sent chills through the air. Even your mother, my sister, would not dare come here. She has avoided me for 15 years. And yet you come bringing strangers. You must be desperate. Elisa stepped forward. I am, she said firmly. My crown is at stake. My sister Kimba stands in my way. She is to marry a man named Keone who may have found a cure for her condition. If she is healed, she will be made queen. That cannot happen. The woman's eyes gleamed. And what do you want me to do? Elisa's voice hardened. I want her dead. I want her to die in her sleep. Pearl gasped. Elisa. The woman tilted her head. Dead, you say? That is no simple task. The blood of royalty carries protection. You cannot kill what the ancestors guard. Elisa folded her arms. I've heard you are powerful. Are you saying there's something you cannot do? The woman's eyes blazed with fury. You dare question my power? She struck her staff on the ground and the skulls rattled violently. If you want your sister dead, so be it. But you must bring me 7 heads of young maidens, pure virgins, before the sun rises again. If you fail, you will die in her place. Fear flashed in Elisa's eyes. 7 virgins? In one day? That's impossible. Before the woman could speak again, Pearl quickly stepped in. Please, no one has to die. There's another way. Instead of killing Kimba, why not charm the king? Turn his heart against her. Then he can declare Elisa the heir instead. Elisa's expression changed. Hope flickered in her eyes. Yes, she said eagerly. Can that be done? The old woman thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. It can. But it will still require a sacrifice. Elisa frowned. What kind of sacrifice? 2 fresh human heads, the woman said. Pearl's heart sank. Please, she begged. There must be another way. Something that doesn't involve killing anyone. The woman's eyes turned cold. There is no power without blood. Choose quickly. Elisa stood in silence for a moment. Then a dark smile spread across her face. 2 heads, you say? Does it matter whose? The woman shook her head. No. Male or female, it makes no difference. Good, Elisa said, her voice low and dangerous. Then I already have what you need. Pearl looked at her in confusion. What do you mean? Elisa's smile widened. I came with 2 guards. They will serve as your offering. Pearl's eyes widened in horror. No, you can't do that. They saved your life from the bears. Elisa turned to her coldly. They are guards. Their lives belong to me. If they die for me, they die with honor. Pearl shook her head, tears filling her eyes. You are evil, Elisa. Father was right. Kimba deserves the throne, not you. You would make a terrible queen. Elisa's jaw tightened. Enough, she snapped. Bind her, aunt. I don't want to hear another word from her mouth. The woman lifted her hand, muttered an incantation, and suddenly Pearl's arms and legs stiffened. She couldn't move. Elisa walked outside and called to the guards. Come in. The aunt wants to bless you for your loyalty. The 2 guards entered, unsuspecting. The old woman raised her staff, and before they could react, dark energy shot from her hands. The guards fell to the ground, screaming. Pearl's heart broke as she watched. She recognized one of the men. It was the same guard who had once turned her away at the palace gate when she came to seek Kimba's help. As he lay dying, he turned his head weakly toward her. "It was all a lie," he whispered. Pearl's breath caught in her throat. A lie? What did he mean? Before she could ask, he was gone. The woman collected their blood into a small gourd and mixed it with dark herbs. Then she handed Elisa a bottle filled with thick black liquid. "Add this to your father's food," she said. "When he eats it, his heart will belong to you. Whatever you command, he will obey." Elisa smiled, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Perfect. The woman then gave them a secret route to escape the forest safely. By the time they reached the village, dawn had fully broken. Pearl was weak, trembling, her face pale from what she had witnessed. Elisa dropped her off at her parents' hut. When Pearl's mother saw her daughter, she cried out, "Pearl, what happened to you?" "She fell ill on the journey," Elisa lied smoothly. "I had to carry her part of the way." Before they could ask more, Elisa turned to leave. She didn't look back. Her mind was already on the next step of her plan, the day her father would eat from her hand and unknowingly seal his own fate. The moon hung low over the palace like a silver watchful eye, its glow spilling across the marble corridors. Shadows stretched long and thin, whispering secrets against the cold walls. In the silent hours of night, Elisa moved like a phantom through the halls of her father's kingdom. Her footsteps were soft but heavy with intent. She pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders as if shielding herself from the guilt that gnawed at the edges of her mind. She turned the corner toward her room, only to freeze at the sight of Kimba standing in the throne room. Kimba's face lit up when she saw her sister. Without hesitation, she crossed the space between them and wrapped Elisa in a warm embrace. "Elisa!" Kimba said, her voice bright with relief. "You're back. We were worried sick about you." But Elisa stiffened in her arms. She shoved Kimba away as though her touch burned. Her lips curled into a hiss. "Take your beastly, ugly self away from me," she spat. Kimba blinked at her, stunned but still calm. Her big, earnest eyes glistened under the torchlight. "We were worried," Kimba repeated softly. "Where have you been all night?" Elisa's eyes darted, her tone sharp. "Take your fake care to people who need it," she snapped. "I went to my friend's house to spend the night and get away from my ugly beast of a sister." Kimba's heart thudded. The words hurt, but she steadied her voice. "Elisa," she said quietly, "I know you never liked me, but now that I'm about to embark on this journey to the Luba Evil Forest, I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to clear the air. I don't want us at war all the time. I hope we can finally let go of the hate. I hope we can have a genuine, healthy relationship." Elisa's laugh was low and bitter. "So now that you've found someone to love your beastly self," she sneered, "you think you've won, sister. You're probably laughing and celebrating in your mind right now, thinking you have it all. But enjoy it while it lasts, because I am going to take back everything that belongs to me. The throne belongs to me, and I will have it. I am the rightful heir." Kimba's shoulders dropped. Her voice trembled, but she met Elisa's gaze. "You keep saying I stole the throne from you," she said. "But by tradition, it belongs to the firstborn. It is my birthright. I never took it from you." Elisa's eyes darkened. "Keep talking, sister," she whispered, almost like a curse. "I can see you are now bold enough to challenge me, but I promise you will regret this action. Mark my words. It won't be long before I see your ugly end." Kimba felt the words slice through her like knives. She hadn't realized the hatred ran so deep. Her throat tightened. She didn't know what else to say. She turned and walked away, tears glimmering on her cheeks. Her footsteps echoed like broken promises against the throne room floor. Elisa stood alone, her fists clenched. She felt the power of her own rage swirl around her like a storm. She thought of the years of being overshadowed by Kimba, her father's favoritism, the servants' whispers, the court's admiration. In her mind, Kimba had stolen everything. Tonight would be the first step to taking it all back. When the anger finally cooled into a cold determination, she headed for her father's chambers. She found him alone, seated at his writing desk with scrolls spread before him. His face, lined with age, softened when he saw her. "Good morning, Daddy," Elisa greeted, her tone careful. He set his quill down and turned, his brows furrowed. "Where have you been?" he demanded. "I've been worried sick. No one could find you." Elisa shrugged, her lips curling slightly. I'm surprised you were worried, she said. You're always busy with your precious daughter Kimba. I thought you wouldn't even notice I was missing. I only went to spend the night with my friend. Her father sighed, his anger deflating. Elisa, he said gently, I know you have always been angry at your sister. Since you were young, you thought I loved her more. But it is not so. You are both my precious daughters. Kimba's condition sometimes requires special attention, that is all. I never meant to make you feel less. Elisa lowered her eyes, but her mind raced. The king went on. I know you're worried that Kimba will marry soon and everything in the palace will change. I know you desire the throne, but you must let this ambition go. By law and tradition, the right to rule belongs to Kimba. I hope you will grow out of this jealousy and learn to love her so you can both work together for the good of the kingdom. Elisa felt a surge of triumph under her calm expression. He had just confirmed everything she needed to know. She smiled faintly. I have forgiven Kimba, she said softly. I am ready to work with her. In fact, I want to prepare a send-off dinner to honor her before the journey. It will show her my sincerity. The king's face brightened. That is good, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. That is the spirit I hoped for. By evening, the palace kitchen was alive with the smell of spices and roasting meat. Elisa worked with her own hands, stirring pots and sprinkling herbs. She hummed softly under her breath, her eyes glinting with something the servants could not name. The chicken was tender and fragrant. She tasted the broth, added a pinch of salt, and then, when no one was watching, she slipped a dark powder into the king's portion. It melted instantly, leaving no trace. She wiped her hands on her apron and called the servants. The meal is ready, she said. Her voice was sweet, but her heart thundered. Tonight, everything would begin. At the grand table, Kimba sat across from her sister. The flickering torchlight caught on the golden goblets and polished plates. Kimba sniffed the air and smiled. I can't believe you made this, she said, glancing at Elisa. Are you sure it was my little sister who cooked this feast? Elisa offered a small, practiced smile. Yes, sister, I wanted to. Kimba hesitated. I still don't fully trust you, she admitted. You've refused my offers of peace before. Elisa's eyes softened with feigned regret. I've reflected on your words and on what Father said. I was foolish. I want forgiveness. I'm ready to work with you for the good of the kingdom. That's why I prepared this send-off dinner. Kimba's face brightened with relief. No grudges, she said. I hope you mean it. Inside, Elisa's heart beat faster. She had rehearsed this moment. She forced a tear to her eye and nodded. I mean it. The king chuckled as he chewed his chicken. This tastes extra delicious tonight, he said. Kimba reached for a piece of the king's portion, but Elisa quickly tapped her hand. You can't try it, she said sharply. This food was prepared specially for each of us. Kimba frowned. It's only food, she said. Why does it matter? Respect the arrangement, Elisa insisted. Eat only from your own plate. Kimba pulled her hand back, puzzled but unwilling to argue. She took a bite from her own plate instead. What neither Kimba nor the king knew was that Elisa had added the potion only to the king's portion. It was a rare root ground into powder, known to cloud the mind and bend the will. Once it took hold, her father would be hers to command. Later that night, after the table had been cleared and the servants had gone, the king slumped in his chair, his eyelids heavy. I feel tired, he murmured. Elisa rose immediately. Let me help you, father, she said sweetly. She guided him to his bedchamber, her hand steady on his arm. When he collapsed onto the mattress, she leaned close to his ear. Rest now, father, she whispered, her voice a silken thread of venom. Tomorrow you will be my slave. Everything I tell you, you will do. The king stirred faintly, caught between sleep and waking, but said nothing. His breathing slowed. Elisa straightened, her eyes glittering like shards of obsidian. Outside, the wind howled against the palace walls, as if the night itself knew what she had done. The morning came quietly, its light spilling softly over the golden walls of the palace. Birds sang in the courtyard, and the wind carried the scent of blooming lilies. The palace should have felt peaceful, but there was an uneasy heaviness in the air, a silence that seemed to hold its breath. Princess Kimba stood before her mirror, her armor polished and her long dark hair tied neatly behind her. Today was the day she would begin her journey to the Luba Evil Forest, a forbidden place where light barely touched the ground, and ancient spirits were said to whisper secrets to those brave enough to listen. Her father had approved the journey, believing it would help her return to normal before her coronation. But deep in her heart, Kimba knew this journey was more than that. It was destiny calling her. She turned to her maidens and said softly, "Prepare the horses. Tell the guards to meet me at the main gate." The maidens bowed and hurried out. Kimba picked up a small pendant from her table, a gift from her late mother, and clutched it tightly in her palm. "Mother," she whispered, "give me strength for whatever awaits." As she stepped out into the long corridor leading to her father's chamber, her footsteps echoed through the marble halls. She paused at the large wooden doors carved with the royal insignia. Just as she reached for the handle, a soft voice came from the shadows. "Elisa?" Kimba said, surprised. Her sister stepped out slowly, dressed in a flowing white gown. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried an unsettling glimmer. "I came to say goodbye," Kimba said with a smile. Elisa tilted her head, feigning warmth. "Father is still sleeping," she said smoothly. "You should go ahead. I'll tell him when he wakes. Have a safe trip, sister." Kimba hesitated for a moment. Something in Elisa's voice made her uneasy, but she pushed the feeling aside. "Thank you," she said simply, then turned and walked away. Elisa watched her go, her expression hardening as the sound of Kimba's footsteps faded. "Goodbye, sister," she whispered to herself, a cruel smile tugging at her lips. "Your journey ends before it begins." Kimba mounted her horse at the palace gates, surrounded by her chosen guards, 10 of the kingdom's finest warriors. She turned to them and nodded. "We ride first to Keone's house." They rode swiftly through the streets, their horses' hooves thundering against the cobblestones. The villagers waved as they passed, unaware that danger already shadowed their princess. When they arrived at Keone's home, he was ready, his bow slung across his back, his expression steady and strong. "You look worried, my princess," he said softly as he joined her side. Kimba smiled faintly. "Maybe I am. The Luba Evil Forest is no ordinary place, but I must go." Keone nodded. "I am with you, my love. I'll go with you, to the end of the earth if I must." With that, the group turned toward the forest path, unaware that death now followed their trail. Back in the palace, Elisa stood before her father's bed. The potion she had given him the night before was working far better than she could have imagined. The king's once kind eyes were now glazed, his mind clouded and pliant like wet clay. He looked at her blankly, waiting. Elisa smiled faintly. "Father," she said sweetly, "I have something to tell you. Kimba has disobeyed you." The king frowned weakly. "Disobeyed me?" "Yes," Elisa said, her tone sharp as a knife. "She left without saying goodbye. And worse, she and that man she loves, Keone, have gone to the Luba Evil Forest to gain dark power. They plan to strike you down and seize the throne." The king gasped softly, his body trembling. "She is a traitor," Elisa whispered. "You must act before she returns." She knelt beside him, her voice turning low and persuasive. "Call the Imperial Guards, father. Send them now. Order them to bring Kimba back. Do not hesitate. It's the only way to protect your throne." The king's lips moved, his will no longer his own. "Call the Imperial Guards," he murmured. "Yes," Elisa said. "It is time to hunt the traitor." Moments later, she sent a messenger to the imperial quarters, where the king's most feared soldiers resided. The Imperial Guards were no ordinary men. They were trained killers, fierce, loyal, and utterly ruthless. Their armor was black as night, engraved with the royal boarhead insignia. They were called the King's Shadow, for they obeyed without question and vanished without trace. When the order came, they wasted no time. Within the hour, they mounted their war horses and rode out of the palace gates, their blades gleaming beneath the sun. Their mission was simple: find Princess Kimba and bring her back, and kill everyone with her. No one was to survive the journey with her. Far down the forest road, Kimba and her guards rode through the quiet hills. The air grew cooler, the trees thicker. The path ahead narrowed into a trail that led toward the dark silhouette of the Luba Evil Forest in the distance. Kimba felt her heart tighten as they approached. The forest loomed like a sleeping beast, silent, ancient, and full of secrets. "Keone," she said softly, Do you feel that? He nodded. Yes, something's not right. Moments later, one of the warriors turned sharply. Princess, he called out. Riders are approaching fast. Kimba reined her horse and looked back. In the distance, dark figures on horseback were cutting through the mist, their speed fierce and unrelenting. Stay calm, Kimba said, her voice steady. They might be travelers passing through. But as the riders drew closer, the sun glinted on their black armor, and Kimba saw the boar head insignia. Her blood ran cold. Oh no, she whispered. The Imperial Guards. The warriors immediately tightened their formation. Kimba raised a hand, signaling them to stop. Dust swirled in the air as the guards surrounded them, their swords drawn. The leader of the Imperial Guard dismounted and approached her, his voice loud and commanding. Princess Kimba, he declared, you are under arrest for treason against the king. By royal order, we are commanded to bring you back to the palace. Kimba's eyes widened in disbelief. What? She cried. That's impossible. My father knows about my journey. He blessed it himself. He would never send you after me. The leader's expression did not change. We act only under the king's command. You and your companions must surrender your weapons. Kimba turned to her warriors, her heart pounding. This is madness, she said. He's been deceived. Then louder, she called out, Guards, take this impostor down, defend yourselves. The air exploded with chaos. Swords clashed, shields shattered, and the screams of men filled the forest path. The Imperial Guards fought like demons, fast, precise, merciless. Kimba's warriors, though skilled, were no match for their training and armor. Keone drew his bow, sending arrow after arrow into the enemy ranks, but for every man he struck down, 2 more appeared. Kimba fought beside him, her blade flashing under the morning sun. Still, one by one, her men fell, cut down like grass before the sickle. Hold the line, Kimba shouted, but it was too late. Blood soaked the dirt road and silence fell once again. Kimba's chest heaved as she looked around. Her loyal guards, the men who had sworn to protect her, lay lifeless at her feet. Only she and Keone remained. The Imperial leader stepped forward again, his sword dripping red. Surrender, princess, he said coldly. You cannot win. Kimba's hands trembled as she gripped her sword tighter, her heart pounded like a drum. Her father, the man she loved and trusted, had ordered her death. Something inside her broke. The grief and confusion turned into a fire that burned hotter than her fear. No, she said, her voice shaking but fierce. I will not surrender. You have killed my men. You have betrayed your princess. For that, I will make you pay. And that's where episode 2 ends. Princess Kimba's strength isn't just in her muscles. It's in her heart, her courage, and the fire that burns within her. But what happens next? Will her choices lead her to victory or disaster? If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the African Storyteller TV so you don't miss part 3, where the story takes an unexpected turn you won't see coming. See you in the next one.